We are back for another episode of Always Another Game. And today's episode is dedicated to my firstborn. He has kindly brought me this guest along because the guest was actually a speaker at his school. And this is a big part of what I want to cover today in this episode, because she has a goal to inspire, to support other people. And when my boy is coming home and showing me the posters and telling me all about the experience, then I knew this was the perfect guest to get on. So on today's episode, we are going inside the mind of somebody who has an MBE. They are a triple Paralympian, and they were the first female gold medalist in the Tokyo Paralympics. Today, I have Kylie Grimes with me. Kylie, how's it going?
Hello, it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. It's good.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Obviously through my eldest and looking into your previous podcasts and stories, I thought this was the perfect opportunity, and it lined perfectly with what we're trying to do here on the podcast, to show everybody that the skills in sport are so essential to life away from the game, and you are doing that with the work that you're doing away from the game in schools and other places as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that to everyone when I go to do talks or I go into schools, that, sport isn't necessarily for everyone. Not every child wants to play sport, but you can learn so much from sport. So if everyone can be involved with it in some way, then they will take, great values forward for the rest of their life, for work, for anything they want to do when they're older.
Yeah, I think that's a key point you made there, because there is a difference between, being heavily involved in sport and wanting to be a better player, a better performer, and just being involved with the activity that it comes under the bracket sport. And I think you're right. I think for mental well-being, physical well-being, it offers you that fun environment. If it can stay fun, that's the big part. Is I think a lot of kids get pushed on quite early to be too serious. But it's fun. It's entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. So I always say that as well. You've got to enjoy it and you've got to love it. And for me as a child, the reason I loved it so much was having friendships, community, being valued by different people. Do you know what I mean? Building those relationships up. I loved being on all girls teams. I also loved playing with the boys in football and rugby, because there was a different kind of like atmosphere and field depending on who you were with. So there's a massive range, which is why I played nearly every sport when I was young. But yeah, even if you're just involved, like we had people come along to tournaments just to help us out. Extra kids used to come and, do a bit of the logistics, or just be there and be involved, be a team manager. And they can just see what it's like to be in that team environment and working with other people. So, even when I was young, it was like that. So not every child wants to actually play the sport. But just to be involved is really vital, I personally think.
Yeah, I would agree with you with that as well. It comes up a lot, and that's generally where I start the podcast as well. Is how people get into it to help others, parents that are listening, to help get their kids involved in some way. But what I love to start the podcast off with, so everybody gets to learn a little bit about you, is who is Kylie Grimes?
So yeah, basically, I started off as a child loving sport. Like I've just said, everything you can imagine, even riding horses at weekends whenever I could, swimming, rounders, basketball, netball, football, rugby. My family love rugby. Rugby union is my favorite sport to watch. It's just brutal, and that's what I love about it. I love things that push your mind, your body to absolute limits. That's my favorite kind of sports and challenges. And we can go into more of that, because I even love now as an adult just challenging myself. I've hand cycled around many countries in the world just to push my body to extremes. So yeah, I'm not just all for sports that are team sports and you're playing a game. I'm for challenging myself as well. So that's what I love doing, and I did it as a kid all the way. I used to love that feeling of accomplishing something like extraordinary, like more than just an average person. And I do that when I'm in the gym as well. I'll go even further. I'll push for PBs. I'll lift even harder, because I love challenging myself. And that's what keeps me mentally strong. Because I feel that when I do that, I'm then, building my resilience, and I'm able to tackle anything, because I'm like, well, if I can lift those heavy weights, if I can lift my body weight, then, when I'm out of this gym, I can tackle any thing that happens in the world. So yeah, that's how I see it, and that's my mindset, and that's me all over. But yeah, I'm also just somebody that loved playing sports, wanted to play for my country, had a dream to play for my country from a very young age. I actually had Chris Akabusi, an old GB sprinter, come to visit me in school, which is where, and that's where my journey started to actually, when I retired 18 months ago, that I wanted to go back to schools and give back to the children, because I had that. And I remember where my journey started with Chris coming to my school, talking all about his journey. And I was like, I want to win a medal for GB. I want to do that. And that's where my journey started. So that's why I now go to schools. So that's a little bit of that. But just so that was me growing up. And then finally, after my accident at 18 years old, I had a diving accident and became tetraplegic, had a spinal cord injury. And I knew that I still had to play sports. It's all I ever wanted. So that's when I found wheelchair rugby. Had loads of people come and talk to me all about it, and all different para sports as well, to be honest, because I wanted to find out a bit more, because I have done a little bit of athletics as well in my career. And yeah, that's when I was like, right, I'm going to go for this. So started training really hard with the London wheelchair rugby team, and then got noticed, went for trials and started playing for GB. And that was where my career of 13 years with Great Britain started. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. Representing my country in 2 sports, at 3 Paralympics, 2 Paralympics in wheelchair rugby, 1 at Rio in athletics, in the British athletics team. And yeah, just traveling the world, playing sport and meeting new people and having a great time, but obviously working really hard as well to finally, after 13 years, get that medal with the team in Tokyo, which gold medal is just, the icing on the cake. And that's why I thought about it long and hard after that. And I rounded off my career and thought there's other things in the world to do as well, but I'm so glad to have finished on a high with the gold medal with the team. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, but there is more to me than sport, as as there is to everybody. And I love traveling. I love visiting new cultures. I love going to music concerts. I love being with my family, my friends, exploring anything that I can do that's new courses, new learning, just doing new things and meeting new people is what I absolutely love to do in my spare time when I have some spare time.
What is spare time? What is it?
It's really hard. The past few years have just been flying by. I'm not going to lie. With all the different advocacy work, going into schools, talks, presenting, all these things that I'm trying to do just to get myself out there, learn a bit more as well, try new things. There really isn't much time at the minute. Generally, I get Sundays to myself and I try and have a really relaxed day at home, going in the gym and doing nothing. But I do pencil in a few weeks here and there, like in Easter holidays, summer holidays when the schools aren't on, where I can get myself abroad, get myself on holiday with my partner and just switch off, because we do all need that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. It's stress and rest, and it is a difficult balance. I don't know whether lockdowns just accelerated life, or parenting, or maybe the same as you, kind of business and personal branding, everything evolves and you just take on more mentally. But please do correct me if I'm wrong, but because obviously coming from being in the Paralympics to somebody who is just an observer, 2012 was a massive turning point, in my opinion. I didn't really watch it or was involved in it in any way, but we ended up getting tickets to quite a few events at the Paralympics at 2012, and we absolutely loved the event, loved everything that London 2012 stood for. I think was fantastic. And wheelchair rugby was one of those events due to one guy. I don't know if you're going to know who I'm going to say, but it was an Australian guy called Riley Batt. He was phenomenal. So how did you see 2012 as a big turning point for the sport?
Absolutely. That was when the team and I really noticed, it excelled. We had 14,000 people, 12 to 14,000 people, I think, watching our games, which we have never had ever. We most of the time in the UK, we're lucky if we have a couple of hundred people come and see a bit of wheelchair rugby when we're playing. All our friends and family have always been there, but to have that many people watching us, to see the sport for the first time live at home was just phenomenal. It really was. And then also to get the coverage on the TV, to get the exposure after London, the sport did increase massively with participation. More girls got involved, obviously, because over the years there's not been many females in the sport, as it is a mixed team sport. And still to this day, not everybody knows that it's men and women playing together, because they see rugby and they think, oh, that's brutal. Like surely they speak to me and they say, so are you on a women's team? And I'm like, no, I'm the only female playing for Great Britain. So I play with the men. And yeah, not a lot of people know that, but after London, more people started knowing that. And then when I started going to schools more, visiting children, doing things, they were like, oh, I've heard of wheelchair rugby. I saw it. And, for the first time ever, we started hearing that more often when we had conversations with people, which before we'd never had. Before London 2012, it was, what's that? I've never heard of it. So yeah, everybody did change. It got more popular. And it definitely excelled it in a positive way for all of us. But it has taken a little bit of a decrease, I've noticed, since after that. The Rio games were amazing for me. I was in the athletics team. It was still incredible, but Rio wasn't quite as big as London. It wasn't televised as much. It was here in the UK, but not really around the world. And then obviously leading into Tokyo with COVID and everything that happened, and not being able to have the spectators there as well. For athletes, I'm just speaking on a personal, level, that for me, it's just seemed to have plateaued slightly and not really got out there. Not many people are watching the Paralympics as much again now. So yeah, that's my feeling of it. But it's still nice when I do go out and talk to people and I'm there. They still say, oh yeah, we've heard about wheelchair rugby though. We know what it is. So people are still aware of it, which is really lovely.
Yeah. And I think it is one of those really fascinating sports because it is fast, it is physical, and there is a lot to it. So there is, a big entertainment value to the sport as well. But yeah, I think in any niche sport and any sport you see after Wimbledon, tennis participation goes up. After, even after World Cup and Euros in football, participation goes up. But there's always going to be that decline. You kind of get in that buzz. So I suppose with that, what would you like to see in terms of do you think we could ever get back to that 2012 vibe that we had?
I think we're always going to have that every Paralympics. I think Paris is going to be big this year because it's not that far. I think I've heard of a lot of people that are going to travel over on Eurostar. They're just going to go over for a couple of days, which is really nice. It's not that far away. Lots of people hopefully will watch it on the telly. I think for me, I don't really need that buzz during the games like all year round. We know that the summer of the Olympics and the Paralympics is always going to be a special summer. There's always seems to be lots of sport on. The energy's good. People feel good. I feel a vibe in the country. I don't know about you, but I always do. I always feel that summer every 4 years is a really good summer. And it would be nice every 4 years for that just to carry on. But it's also just nice the other 3 years of the year just to hear that people have heard of the sports, do know what they are, do just take a little bit of pride in them and notice that, it's not just a 1 year thing for these athletes. These athletes are training the same intensity, all year round for the whole 4 cycle and the whole of their careers. So it's just nice that when you do have those conversations with people that they actually do just understand that, athletes do work really hard. They're representing their country all the time. So they're always training at the best of their ability. Also, a lot of Paralympians are also working alongside it because they do have funding if you're on sort of podium level, but there's not, high levels of funding. It's not always enough to live on, especially for new Paralympians sort of on their starting journey. They have to, you can't just get put straight on funding. You have to show that you're capable of winning medals for the country. So yeah, a lot of people have to work alongside it or at university, do other things. They also have disabilities and things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So, just to have a little bit of like, wow, you guys are athletes, you train hard, you do well, and just a bit of appreciation when you have conversations with people is just really nice. That's it, really. It's, and to be seen as an athlete, not like a person with a disability and an athlete. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, there's so many ways to get the word out and what you're doing. Every school you go into, you're able to share that story and open up the eyes of people that, you know, are more willing to maybe accept it at that age and learn from it, which is fantastic. But there was something I wanted to ask you in regards to going into school, because you're very open about the accident that you had. And one bit that I wanted to kind of look into a little bit, because I think I listened to one of your podcasts and you said it was, you know, as you said, an accident. You'd fallen off horses before and had big injuries and recovered. When you go into schools, do you share this story of being a teenager? And I don't know if it was a mistake or just a complete accident. Do you share that story as well to help kids see that, you know, sometimes we do need to maybe pause for a second before we act on something, especially when we're in that society of, you know, trying to fit in and peer pressure?
Yeah, absolutely. I do share it with the kids. I try not to go into too many details. Don't want to scare children, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a way that you talk about it with adults. There's a way you talk about it with children. It's just different. But I do say to them, you know, I'm not going to go into lots of detail about the accident, what happened, but I did have an accident at 18, which is why I now use a wheelchair. And I just talk about it briefly and say, you know, diving. And I do say to them, when you're in a swimming pool, when you're in somewhere that's wet floor as well, particularly, you have to be very careful. That's why adults are always saying to you, no running around the swimming pool, you know, and I say accidents do happen, but sometimes if you're trying to do something extreme or an extreme sport or, you know, even BMXing, skateboarding, anything, I say you do have to just be careful and you have to think about what you're doing because accidents do happen. So the kids all take it in like little sponges, but yeah, you just make them aware and, you know, show them the risks, but don't scare them at the same time.
Yeah, I get that. It was just interesting to know because at that kind of age, especially kind of teenagers, you do have a lot of peer pressure. And I don't, you know, I probably look back and did things that, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done because people were nudging you or because other people were joining in. And you do hear of these incidences. Last winter, the one before, we had the children, unfortunately, walking out onto the ice in the lake, and obviously it wasn't frozen. And it's just kind of that awareness to take that pause and think, which is hard, you know, at a younger age, especially if other people are egging it on. And it's great to raise that awareness and teach them, you know, kind of from our learnings on actually it's not uncool to say no to a friend or something like that. So I think it's a really important lesson. Yeah. And, you know, that's why I was interested to know that how that came across in schools.
Yeah, sometimes I talk about it because I will say, you know, when I was at school, I was a team captain. I was a leader of the netball team. I was quite, you know, a confident child. And I'll say to them, you know, I didn't follow the crowd. So I didn't have all the latest gear. I was always just rolling around in the mud. And I say this to them sometimes when they ask me questions. And I'm like, yeah, you be yourself. Always be yourself and don't feel like you have to do anything. Because I never did as a child. I was very, very confident. And if I didn't want to do it, it was, no, I'm not doing that. So, yeah, I do say that a little bit to them when they ask me questions. And I always say, you know, it's nice to be kind. And when you're a leader and a captain of a team, you got to look out for every single member of your team and every single person in your school. Just always make sure people are okay. So I say things like that all the time. And I do hope they're listening. I think they are because they're like little sponges. Because, yeah, I think it's really important. I was big on that when I was in school. I used to always protect the quieter children that we used to, you know, back then, the little nerdier children, we used to say. I always feel like I should look out for them because everyone, you know, should be themselves and be like happy and confident with being themselves, whether they're quiet, loud or not or whatever.
Yeah. So as young Kylie, she had a dream. She wanted to be an Olympian. And you did it. And one thing when I was watching, I was closely watching the gold medal finish, and I was looking out for you and to see your kind of response from it. And I listened to your post game interview. And one thing that caught me, which as an athlete, it's very relatable. But you said, I can't describe it. Now you've lived it. Now it's down the line. Can you describe it now? How are you feeling? One thing I noticed is you kept shaking your head. Like disbelief. Can you explain it now? How did that feel to reach the goal that you set out as a young kid?
You know, I think for someone like me, who I know my ability and what I'm capable of, and I think that's why I've always gone for my dreams to, you know, go for them because I know what I can do and I have full belief in myself. So I think when I finally got there after like 13 years of trying, 3 Paralympics, team sports, individual sports, I think for me, it was like, was a sense of relief. It really was. It was like, oh, wow, I have actually done what I said I was going to do to like for myself a long time ago. But, and, you know, I truly did believe I would get there. I really, really did. And I think having that belief all the way through is certainly what got me there and what helped me, you know, help the team, my position in the team to get us there. Because we all played a part. It's a team sport. We all played a big part, but we all have to have belief, and we all have to help each other. And I truly believe I did that. But yeah, I still don't know how to talk about it. It's still, honestly, it's been how long now? 2.5 years. And I still find it hard. Like, people say to me, what was that feeling like winning that medal? And it's still really difficult to talk about, but it is so many emotions. It's not just one thing. It's, you know, like I said, relief, it's happiness, it's excitement. It was just extraordinary. I honestly, the whistle went and I just was like, oh, wow. I was speechless for the first time in my life ever. You know, looking around at the team, seeing the boys cry, see people screaming, shouting, crying. It was like you were there and noise was going all around you, but you weren't there as well. It was the most bizarre feeling. And yeah, it took a long time. The celebration was madness. The changing room was madness. Friends and family's videos were just madness. And I will remember that forever. Honestly, it was so good.
There's something different to it. That's the one element I do miss from sport, which you can't really replicate. It's not winning a game, like winning the championship, winning a gold medal. There's just something you can't really explain. And I think you put it actually quite well there. You can't explain it because it is a mixture of emotions. And there's just such a good feeling. And I say, even when you're talking about it now, you can see you're smiling. You can see I'm smiling if you're watching on video, because you kind of get a little feel from that again. So when you did win the gold, was that a point where you retired, or did you carry on after that?
I carried on for a year after, because I was just sort of weighing up what I wanted to do. I think I knew deep down that I didn't have long left, not because I didn't have a place in the team, but because I'd got to a point before Tokyo and all through COVID and everything where it was hard. It was really hard, and I was beginning to not really love it like I used to love it. And I also got to a point after many years of traveling where the traveling became a bit tiring, and I wanted to be at home a little bit more. So for me, I knew that I didn't have that much longer, but I just wanted to not go, right, I'm done and I'm going to end right there. I just wanted to see. So I spent the next year with the team and I really enjoyed it still. We did Euros, we did Worlds. And then after the Worlds, I just was like, I'm ready. And for the first time ever, I just felt ready. I felt ready to, just walk away from that whole year with a gold medal, current European. We were current European gold as well. And I just thought, now's the time. And I'm going to go and be with my family and my friends, and I'm going to do other things. And it just was a really, really nice feeling, to be honest. Sense of a bit like winning the medal, relief, but also happiness, amazing memories, fun time with the team, great friends for life, and a really good point to leave. For me, I didn't want to be an athlete that left when I started getting injured or tired or not competing at my best or anything like that. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be in control of it, like I've been for most of my life with nearly every situation. And I wanted to go out on a high, and that was the right time. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome, because that's how I was thinking, is obviously coming from the gold, that is, the highest level, a lot of people would say, and then you carried on and you were able to continue winning. Did you have that hunger for more after the Paralympic gold?
After the gold, I did. I was like, right, we can be dominant now. Let's be world dominant. Let's win everything. Let's do everything. And that's what I wanted from the team. But we didn't do very well in the Worlds in the year after. And the team was not in a great place. We did have injuries. We did have other things. Our captain had decided to go through his own personal reasons. And so we didn't have the best tournament at the World Championships, and I just thought, do you know what? I would love this for the team to be world dominant. I would love to do all these dreams that I've got in my head. I would love to do, but I can't control that. It's a team sport, and when you're in a team sport, you can't control everything. You can only control what your input is to the team and what you can bring. So I realised that actually, as much as I want it and what I want for this team and all the rest of it, maybe it can't happen, and maybe I'm just having these bigger dreams, and maybe it's just not our time or whatever. So I decided to just take control of the bit that I can, like I said, control myself and what I can do, and go out on that high. So yeah, that's when it sort of turned around for me after the Worlds, and I realized that maybe it wasn't going to go where I wanted. So let's go and enjoy life. There's so much to life, so much more than just sport, as much as we love it.
There is, and that's what I want to get from this, and everything that you kind of said so far and everything I learned about, I've loved the mentality shift, and that's why I wanted to know, was it because a lot of teams win their championship, win a medal, and then they can't get it back because they've done it, the drive isn't there anymore. I know for me, my career was ended on a semi-final loss where I didn't play very well, but I think I knew the whole season I'd lost the love for the sport, and the time was right, but I just found it very difficult to actually say it. It was a huge relief when I did. So everybody does finish in different ways, and that's why I want to get those stories across. Is yes, you can finish on a high, and you can go and chase your dreams. And also you can also leave if you've lost the love, or if you know the time is right for family, and go and live in the life out of sport. And then there's so many different ways, and it's okay, because I used to think I've got to finish on a trophy when I was a kid. Yeah, you see all the players, the top players in ice hockey, they would get traded to a top team to try and give them a chance of a trophy, and that's what I grew up on. And I wanted to show everybody, no, it's okay. There are many, many different reasons why you retire. And to be in control of that own decision is very, very important.
I would say that's probably the most important thing. Just do it when you feel ready. It is tough, and there are many athletes that will carry on. And so it's really hard, because you love that life. You love that lifestyle. You adopt the whole lifestyle of living as an athlete, and you don't want to let go of it, because one, that's all you've known for a very long time, and the outside world is a bit scary. The unknown is a bit scary for a lot of people. So you try and keep going. And also you just love the sport. A lot of people do just generally love the sport, and they want to stay. But for me, I think the most important thing is being in control yourself and knowing when the time is right. And like you say, the time can be right, for different people at different times. And you just have to make that decision. So yeah, that's what I did after the Worlds. I just realized that the team might not be going where I want it to go in my head. So I'm going to leave now before the frustrations start, or the not enjoying it like I did. I didn't want to feel those feelings. I know some people don't mind, and they'll ride the highs and the lows and the waves, but I wanted to go out on a high, excited, and still loving my sport. And that's what I did.
So one thing that obviously we've noticed very much is the mindset that you've had. You've been through big challenges, whether it was with the accident, and to reach a gold medal. A lot of people that have achieved that know what it takes. One thing I picked up on one of your post-game interviews was your gold medal mentality, where you said, don't quote me exactly, but you were talking about how you'd made the final, and you said, a medal isn't enough. We're here to win. We're going for gold. I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm not a massive fan of the mentality of like, oh, we've done our best. We've achieved more than we've ever done. If we don't win, it's okay. I'm like, you're in a gold medal match, a one-off shootout. You have just as much reason to be there as the other team. Let's go and get it. And it was actually my coach at under 11s. I still remember it. We were in a final, and he said, every time that team takes the puck off you, that's your gold medal. Go get it back. And I think that started for a long time ago. Tell us a little bit more about where that bit kind of came from.
I've had that my whole life. I've always had this drive in me to win. I'm in it. Every competition I entered, whether it was a smaller tournament, large tournament, Europeans, World Paras, whatever. For me, You're in it to win it. You're not there for a good time. You're a professional sports person to win. Your job is to win. And for me, a winning mindset within a team is vital, absolutely vital. Of course, you're going to have tournaments where you don't win. Of course, you're going to have tournaments where the team don't perform. That happens. Okay. But you go away from there, you learn from it, and you build a winning mindset. That is 100% where I am, and I am with team sports. I wouldn't want it any other way. And thankfully, all the guys on my team at Tokyo were very, very similar. We all had winning mindsets. We were building a winning culture. I believe a winning culture is within a team sport is huge. It really is. If you're just there for a good time and I'm just satisfied because I've got that bronze medal, or I'm just satisfied because I'm in the final, that's not who I want on my team, or what I want as a team culture. We're all in that together, and we've all got to want to win, because that's what drives the team forward. And that's what drives you when parts of the tournament don't go very well and you have to overcome something, and you have to, so for instance, you might have a warm-up game or one of your first group games where you do lose. But if you've got that winning mindset and that drive to get to that final as a team, you're going to get through, and you're going to get to the quarters and the semis and the final. So for me, it's massive. It's absolutely huge. You have to have a winning mindset within a team.
Yeah. And that's the difference, isn't it? Because where in the schools you talk about inclusion and just performing and having fun, it is a different game when you reach the high end level. It does become about winning, because if not, there are levels you can go and play and have a beer before, during and afterwards if you really want to. But when you're at that high end, just to kind of go, okay, well, cool, we're kind of average, and it's great that we came fourth. Or I just feel like if you're in that competition, the mindset should always be to win. And if it doesn't because you've tried hard, okay, then you can go away with your head held high.
Exactly. And if you lose a tournament and you haven't won that one, but the whole team has given 1,000,000%, you can't ask for any more. And you go away, you evaluate, you work on stuff, you look at things. Do you know what I mean? But I hate going into a tournament and thinking that some team members aren't giving 100%. They're not. It's just not for me. I'd rather not be there. I find that really, really difficult. And like you say, there are sports and there are things to have fun. I play now for London Wheelchair Rugby Club to have fun. I'm just there to have a good time, to be with my team. I don't care about winning every tournament that we go to now. I'm there just for a good time, and I still play because I love it. And so there are, like you say, times for children just to be, enjoying themselves, learning, learning the values in life, everything like that. But there are elite level sport where you need a winning culture.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of brings on to the next phase of this incredible mindset that you've formed. And it goes back to when you were this was post-accident, you were in the rehab, and you were being told, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And you had a big shift on perception on that. And I think you've kind of used that a lot through your life. What was your shift? How did you kind of reframe what they were saying and put it into Kylie's way of thinking?
This has always been something I've got within me. It's massive. Like I said earlier, when I said I have a strong belief in my ability and what I'm capable of. And so every time somebody says to me, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that, life's going to be very different, it's not going to be what you think, I literally let them tell me. I'll let them say, okay. And then I will say, you don't know me. And you don't know what I'm capable of, because I know what I am, and I'll tell you what I can do and what I'm going to be able to do. And that's basically how I've lived my life all the way through. I'll let people know when I can't do something, but until that happens, I will do it, and I'll prove you wrong. And that's exactly how I got through rehab, how I got through my spinal injury, how I live the way I live, how I've now traveled the world, how I now drive, how I now do so many things that people told me I wasn't going to be able to do, and I'm now doing them, and I'm doing them, easily, and I love it. So yeah, that's how I shift things.
I think it's vital though, that shift in perception. Obviously for me it's on a smaller scale, but I get a lot of people, well, you can't eat this, you can't do that, or you're going to miss this. It's like, no, okay, well, let's flip it. Okay, well, what can I eat? So obviously with what I've done, I work with people who have food intolerances or allergies. And constantly it's like, right, I can't eat this. Well, we all know that because that's what you're told. Let's find out what we can, and let's start building a new way of eating around that. And I think that shift of, yeah, okay, thank you for informing me what I can't, but what can I do? How can I go and live and travel and do all this stuff? And you were able to do that yourself.
Exactly. And I think that's where, for me, I got through my spinal injury, because so many people will tell you what you can't do, but actually don't focus on those things. I've never focused on those things. I didn't even think about the can't. So I was thinking of constantly, okay, what can I do? What can I learn? What can I achieve? What sports can I play? Where can I travel to? I was always thinking of the what I can do. And that's what got me through, because so many people focus on the bits that they can't do anymore. So for instance, if I'd focus purely on, I can't ride horses anymore, I'm never going to be able to show jump, I'm never going to do this. What's that going to do to me? That's going to make me go a bit crazy. That's going to make me feel depressed, down, sad, not want to live, not think about anything. I don't want that. I was like, no, I need to do the things that make me feel good, that build my confidence, that make me see the world as beautiful, for even the smallest things, for making me achieve everything I want to. And the only way you can do that is by having a positive mindset, believing in yourself, and going for the things that you can do, and having like a tunnel vision on the things that you can rather than the things that you can't. And yeah, that's exactly how I live.
Yeah. And you've got a special way of doing that as well, and implementing from the starting points of maybe not being able to do something when you were going through rehab to be able to do it and get to the point that you're at today. And I think somebody else called it, I don't know if you named it or they named it, the sock story. If you can kind of share a little bit about on your theory and how you've kind of come to those progressive phases.
Yeah, well, so I didn't actually name it that. I have heard that before, but well, so taking it back to all the start when I first started putting my socks on and that sort of thing, I think this is where this came from. But basically, I knew it was going to be a big challenge to put my sock on. Okay, I knew how hard it was to do all of these small tasks when my hands don't function very well. I've got no hand function. But so the first time I ever did it, I just decided to be relaxed, not get frustrated, put the telly on, put a film on. I knew it was going to take me a long time. And I just sat on my bed and I was like, right, just keep practicing different ways, putting it in both your hands, trying to open it, with one, just finding a way. And then after that, I realized that actually that's just taken me 3.5 hours, okay, to put one sock on while I was watching 2 films. I actually got through 2 films. But I stay calm, I stay patient. And it taught me that I was always going to get to the outcome that I wanted. And the outcome was to get that sock on. And I did it. And it doesn't matter how long it took. So then I took that approach into everything, absolutely everything that I did after that. I was like, right, what's the next outcome I want? I want to learn to drive a car. Okay, now how do I get there? Small steps. I've got to get a car. I've got to get it adapted. And then I've got to go on little car journeys, practicing, because it's going to build up. So I did all of these things, and that is now how I literally treat life with everything. Because if you look at the big outcome, or if I look at the big outcome all the time, it can be really overwhelming and like, oh, okay, how do I actually get there? So now everything I do, whether it's, even when I got to the Paralympics, getting into the GB team, writing my book, doing any sort of writing speeches, anything like that, I do it really small and I just write step by step. Start with bullet points, start with the things you want to do, and then build on to the next, and then elaborate, and then write an actual essay. And yeah, that's literally how I do things now, step by step. So it doesn't overwhelm me in any way, and I can actually make it achievable. And it all started, when I first put my sock on, and it took me 3.5 hours. And that's now what I do for everything. It's really funny.
I love it though. They call the compound effect the 8th wonder of the world for a reason, and that's what I do with my life, with my coaching. It's little and often it's achievable tasks that you're not currently doing, and I said that 3 hours. Would I be right in saying it doesn't take 3 hours anymore?
No, it takes about 4 seconds.
There we go. And that's the thing, right? Things always start difficult in life. Anything that's worth doing starts difficult. And the more you stick at it, the more purpose you have to do it, and the less overwhelm you can create, the easier it becomes. And if you stay in the easy approach now, life often then stays hard. And you took it upon yourself to take on the task. And it took 3 hours. So in a sense, it was a big task, but it wasn't. It was just putting on a sock. You didn't say I had to get fully dressed. So you brought it right down to that simplest of detail. You know, and now look at you. And I think it's such an important lesson for anybody, for kids, for adults, that reduce the overwhelm. Simplify it as easy as you can make it to get started and watch the magic go to work.
Exactly. And then what I say to people now as well, because then they say to me, so what? Did it take you like 3.5 hours to do everything? Did it take you 3.5 hours to make a cup of tea? And I'm like, no, it didn't. Because once I got to that huge task of just putting that sock on, I then found easier ways to do stuff, and everything then gets quicker. Everything I did then gets quicker. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And also to, like you just said, to break it down. When you break things down, for me in my head, it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And that's what it's done my whole life. And now I do general tasks pretty quickly, the same as everybody else. So that's how you get there. That's how I did it.
Well, yeah, because when you focus on one habit, others tend to follow, even if you're not thinking about them. So, you know, when people start on a diet, they don't just do the diet, they start walking and start exercising and start drinking more water, but they haven't planned those in. They're just other actions that come off that one task. So yeah, you focusing on the sock allowed you to do the other, you know, the other parts as well.
Exactly.
What was it that inspired you to help other people, you know, especially in schools? What was that wake up moment like that's who I want to inspire?
Do you know what? I find kids amazing because they're like little sponges. They take everything in. They always want to learn. When we go to schools, and when I go and talk to them, they ask so many questions. I love watching their brains tick. You know, they are fascinated. I get things like, how do you shower? Because they can't get into their head like how someone in a wheelchair would get out of their wheelchair to sit on another seat to shower. You know, they're like, do you shower in your chair? Do you sleep in your chair? And for me, that fascinated me when I was like doing my sporting career. And I just loved the way that kids' brains work and the way they think and the way they're trying to learn and understand. That when I finished my career, I was like, right, I'm going to keep going back to schools. I want to give back like Chris Akabusi did for me. I want to, if I can inspire one child at that school that I go to on that day, that they want to take up a sport and do it for their country and represent their country at a high level, then amazing. But if not, and they don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But if I can also show them, you know, that just living differently or as a wheelchair user, you know, is still pretty amazing, and making awareness of people living you know, different lives, wheelchair users, mobility aids, deaf, blind, whatever, just making kids more aware, then I'm only going to help for the future as well, because, you know, I just find kids so accepting of everybody, and I think it's beautiful. And they never ask, you know, anything that's a bit crazy. I've had some crazy questions, but yeah, it's not been too bad. So yeah, I just love going, helping them learn, helping them aware, and just, yeah, letting them ask questions and letting them learn. Really, I find it really, really, it inspires me. I look at them and I'm like, oh wow, I just hope these guys all grow up and, you know, are gonna really help society and give back and work hard and do things when they're older. And if I can help them a little bit, or inspire them a tiny bit with my journey as well, then just even better.
Yeah. And one of the main areas that you are looking to work on is to get more girls into sport. How are you going about that? And one thing I would love to know as well is what one thing would you love to see change to, you know, to make that entry barrier easier for more girls to play?
So for me, it's, you know, having my nieces now as well, who are just coming up to 10 and 7, having them and seeing the confidence grow in them by playing sports. But my older niece is now getting to the age where she's having to play with boys in rugby and things like that. And that's the age where so many girls leave sport because they don't want to do that. But I'm saying to her, look, this isn't forever. Just keep going. And I'm building her confidence up and helping her. So is my sister. And, you know, so for me, having that as well is really encouraging, and I'm trying to get more girls by mentoring. So I'm mentoring young girls in sport, sort of ages 12 to 16. I'm part of the Vision in Sport team, trying to mentor some girls. Yeah, trying to just, say to them things like that. This period where you may play with the boys isn't forever. You will go on to all girls teams. Any sport that they want to be involved with. We mentor girls in athletics, individual sports as well. Just to try and keep them in it and show them the importance that what sport did for me as a female. As a teenager, it helped me not worry about my body image, not worry about the little things that you see on social media all the time, not worry about, food and if it's good for me or bad for me, but actually what it's doing for my body, how it fuels me. I'm just trying to help the girls see what I saw and how my body has been so important for me, and then also carried me through a spinal injury, and what an amazing thing that it's done, and just to try and appreciate our bodies and how strong they are, and that sort of thing. Just show them how I dealt with it. Because being a teenager and having hormones and playing sports, it can be tough. It is. It's not an easy thing, So yeah, I'm just trying to mentor, keep the young girls in sports that are in sports, and then also still just trying to get my name out there to get more women into wheelchair rugby, more girls that are injured. I get a lot of messages on social media all the time saying, because of you, my daughter's playing, because of you, we've got 4 more females join our team and stuff like that. So that's really amazing. And I'll do that by trying to hold more women in wheelchair rugby days, girls days. And I've also, along with a load of other girls in the UK, set up the first all-female wheelchair rugby team called the Purple Panthers, where we are going to just play our all-female lineup against, it will be against men because we don't have other female teams to play against, but all around Europe, just go with our female team and go and play, just to give girls more court time, more experience, and hopefully stay in the sport for longer, because they can play with the girls team as well as a mixed team sport. So they're all the things I'm doing to try and keep girls in sport and to try and increase participation with females in rugby, wheelchair rugby.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. So what is next for Kylie Grimes?
So hopefully next I will be writing a book. I've told a couple of people over the last year, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to write a book. And finally, my absolute dream right now would be to be a presenter, broadcaster for the Paralympics at some point, whether it's Paris or whether it's the next one in 4 years' time. I would love to do that. I would love to commentate on sport, interview, broadcast. I love sport, love it. I'm still so passionate about it, obviously. And I love watching GB compete every Olympics and Paralympics. So to be able to work with the team alongside that at future games would just be a dream come true. It'd be amazing. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to see where it takes you. Obviously, you are leading the way. You are being a role model. You're an inspiration. And again, you believe, which is the main bit. So I can't wait to see you on TV, because we know it's going to happen, because you make things work. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. I know my eldest will be keen to listen in a little bit, even though maybe his attention might not last too long. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And I'd like to remind everybody before they go that there is always another game. Thank you for everybody joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.